familiar with LP providing. Now, I thought it's kind of hard to hypothetically display what is taking place. Maybe you can do some flowcharts, maybe just have some pure figures. Again, that might be a bit messy. But if we have a look at the price of PLSX, and maybe look at Ink, maybe look at Hex. Not that long ago, we were at what? 0.002 and 0. Oh my god, where is it going to see? Well, basically 100% down. We could go up 100% and we were back to where we were. So it was 0.0002 for Pulse, 0.0001 for PLSX, and Ink was around 10 from memory, and I can't remember what Hex was off the top of my head. So it's interesting to see the sentiment right now. It's almost doom and gloom, and yet it's like, well, we've only pulled back a little bit, and if you were providing LP, depending on where your positions were, low positions, but depending on your LP positions, if you entered in, say, around these positions, then maybe you're sort of going back to where you started in terms of your LP, and maybe, just maybe along the way, you've earned some INC. Now, is it the best move? I will try and break it down with some actual figures from what I've seen. There was basically an amount that you start with, a stable, and a token that you wish to provide LP with. Maybe it's Pulse, who knows? I thought, let's have a look at something like one of the stable pairs on PulseX, the primary, DEX on Pulse Chain. Now, after a certain amount of time, I think it's been about 10-15 days or so, it's sitting at about a loss of 60 stable US dollars. The Pulse side is down $80 US. That's a total loss of around 140 in PLS. PLS terms that calculated to me, the figures I've rounded up slightly to be about 1.5 million. So these are very small, like pretty small figures. I'm not including the amount of yield of ink that's been farmed, and I'm not including what one decides to do with that, because that would be up to yourself if you can even figure out how to do this, because maybe it's complex, or you're new to crypto and this is your first time covering LP farms, and you're maybe looking for someone to baby you through all of this. Now, if that is the case, it's maybe a very steep learning curve. If you're already familiar with this, then these figures might help you a little bit. I don't know. Now, if you were to sell right now, after the price increased and decreased, you might have more overall Pulse than you started with, based on some figures I'm seeing. So caveat, it could be that I can't remember the range in which I started, because if it started at today's range, went up and then back down, it should be about the same, I would say. But according to these figures, it's saying there's about a little bit less. So what would happen if you were to see the LP increase, and then it comes back down, and then you see, your losses, and then you're like, okay, what can I do now? Potentially, you could pull the LP after the highs, and then sell all the stables. Maybe you buy Pulse with it, and all up, you'd be down about 400k Pulse based on these figures. Now, not including the INC yield, because what happens if the INC yield, you decide to say buy some more Pulse, maybe you're in a better position. What if you say, just sell it for fiat, maybe you're still in a better position. It's hard to say. But the question is, I guess, if you're looking at doing this, if you add more to the pairs, what happens to the range? Does it change? I think it does. So if you created a range of Pulse now, and the price of Pulse increases, an LP position between stable and Pulse, and if you think the Pulse price is going to increase from here further, then most likely you would have less Pulse over time. And if you're happy with having more stables, then maybe that's something you're looking at doing. If you think it's going to range trade, go back up, go back down, again, they're things that you need to take into consideration whether or not that's something you want to look at. I would say the best way to do it is take a little bit and learn how to do all this, because once you start doing it, you might take a knack to it, you might enjoy doing it, you might understand it better than I, and then you might be able to, you know, see some real world profits, or you might be able to see some new tokens, and you might decide, you know, what you want to do. What's happening, Tinzo? I put in some background imagery because I thought it's pretty unbearable to sit and try and listen to some dude ramble on about pulse farms. I mean, most people, I think most people understand this, but I think it's good to track and trace it, or trace vaguely, track it over a period of time and see what it's doing. And so far, my main question, or the main thing I ponder, is moving LP like completely out, or versus topping it up at different ranges. So if you had an LP position, you know, about when we're at the same position, and then it went up, you know, then you had less pulse, more stables, and then cool, and then thank you, and then say the stables, then the price of pulse does what it did and retraces back to where it was initially. In theory, you should be back to your starting point, and then you would have more ink. And it's like, well, maybe you could use that ink to either buy, you could trade it for stable, you could buy more pulse, or you could make another farm with it with more pulse, or you know, you could use ink to then buy pulse and pair, etc., or PulseX. Yeah, don't look at the background. Do not look. Hang on, mate. Don't look at the background. I turned the subtitle, the sound off, because it was, I think it's in, it's possibly in Cantonese, I think, and I'm not really sure what they're saying. I've got the subtitles at the bottom, but even that's in a different language, which I don't fully understand. Now, where was I? Positions, lol. Now, so the question is it better to hodl in these ranges and just earn ink, or what to do with the INC, especially given the fact that I keep repeating this, we were previously at double sack, I think double sack, and PulseX was at sack rate. It's now down from that. It's good idea, good, yeah, safety first, people. if it goes back to double sack for pulse, back to sack for PulseX, maybe, and you've sat in the LP the whole time just pulling out some INC yield, maybe that's not a bad play, you know, if you're allocating some of your holdings towards that, because if you were doing it with your entire stack, it then it then becomes more what's it called? It becomes more, it can be more risky. But in the end though, it's like you got it for free and you're doing more shit to get more shit, so it's all kind of cool, in my opinion. I did see on X, now this is the reason why I don't mind using X, because I do see people just stalk the, I don't know, some addresses, and for some reason it appears to be as if some addresses are purchasing PulseX, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So that made me go, well, maybe, just maybe, that would be a good play. I don't know. I personally saw the dip on Pulse and bought a little bit. Well, actually, what I did, I was lucky. I pulled out some LP, and then after I pulled out some LP, I was able to basically have some stables, right? Because I was really starting to think, hang on, these rates are pretty good, these ranges are pretty good, because it went from having less pulse, so now I've got more pulse. I was really tempted to pull all the liquidity, right? Just pull it all and then sell all the stables and just cash it all in for cash it. swap it all for back to like say Pulse for instance, and then I would have had like potentially for that stack more Pulse than ever, which would have been a really good play. But I thought, well, I'm gonna leave some, just get some INC. I was lucky, I did pull some just before this huge crash. I then was able to purchase, I think, some Pulse. Went out for it, came back and saw some addresses move on PulseX. I thought, well, that's probably not a bad idea. So hopefully that makes sense to people. But yeah, from here, it would not surprise me. Tintop probably, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but maybe we end up back at double sack for Pulse in the future, and sack rate again for PulseX in the future, and then INC back at $10 at those ranges, and then we see, you know, Hex again basically double what it is now. I mean, that's not impossible, but yeah, if that is the case, then all this stressing over the price go down may not be overly important. Maybe you find something else better to do with your time. I personally went to work, and I'm trying to decide which one to purchase more of, Hex, PulseX, or Pulse itself. You know, all three are very good. Yeah, that's a good point too. For the longest time, I sat at the 3-to-1, I think it was. But it's funny now, the ratio. If you look at the sack ratio, what is it now? Oh, it's 1.24, 1 to 2.4. It's funny though, because I was thinking, the sack ratio, it's basically at one sack ratio, and it's almost at just a bit under half. Again, that might be something different you could look at. So maybe we land back at the double for Pulse, and maybe we get back to, you know, sack for PulseX. I'm not sure. I have been looking at the liquidity pools as well, but it's been not the easiest to track with as the price decreases, we see the LP value. I don't know if it's TVL, but the amount in the pools is also going down. So I guess the sack rate is a useful indication at the moment, as well as the ratios, like you mentioned. But yeah, that is about it. I should probably just remove myself and then remove this screen here, and then just let the ladies do their thing. But yeah, like that's about it. It was very, very encouraging seeing some address purchase PulseX, because that sort of encouraged me to go, well, maybe I should do that as well if I have some spare capital, which I did. And maybe it's hard to say, like, which one's gonna pump harder. Ooh, nice. Sack rate, yeah. I agree. It's just an interesting amount at the moment when it's still relatively new. It's like, oh, it's still above sack, so that's a good thing. It's sort of like a mental, you know, a mental, psychological, you know, support level, whatever you call it. Market sets the ratio where it wants. Very true, very true. What is that ratio now? So relative to Pulse, I guess Pulse would be the main indicator, because it's interesting how everything's priced in Pulse. If you consider the previous tweet potentially about the stability pools, stable pools with Pulse paired with that, and the wrapped Ethereum, because maybe PulseX, X-Pulse have less of an influence on everything. So then if you refer back to Pulse as the main sort of variable, and then you see, I thought the price was interesting before, about 100 Pulse to 1 hex, PX, 1 hex. And then we see, I know, priced in at X amount of INC is giving you X amount of Pulse, so also kind of interesting stuff. But yeah, when this video ends in the background, I'll basically end this stream, because I think most people, if they're looking at doing LP, then, you know, the best way I think to do it is to either follow it on paper, try and do paper trades if you can. Testnet, I tried to go through and do some LP providing, but I wasn't able to, so I'm not sure if that's been like turned off. But if you go back and have a look on the test net, you'll see the amount of INC is it's extremely low. The amount that's being issued on the every minute, and but the price is extremely high over there. So maybe, just maybe, that's what's going to be coming in terms of the amount of INC to be issued over a year, and then the prices will sort of follow suit in terms of everything will go up and to the right. Now, I think we've got about 2 minutes left. I'll close this one out very shortly. I don't think anyone else is commenting, so I think it's just us, just chilling. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I guess the main thing that I'm thinking of is certain legal announcements in relation to, I guess, cases that loosely are related to the price of PLS, PLSX, INC, and HEX, maybe, although INC, I don't think was listed. But I'm not sure if people are going to react negatively, or if for some reason this negativity now is going to be neutralized going forward, and we might see some positive moves, you know, going up and to the right across everything. Seeing addresses move on PulseX is extremely interesting to watch, because who knows, like I've heard before, maybe some thoughts were PulseX, I think, could outperform initially, and then Pulse follows later on. It sort of catches up, and then INC was just unexpected for me. Although we did see it in the early days go up to like 80 something, at which point I wasn't even farming at all, which I'm not sure I regret too bad, because the LP pools at the time, and if your main primary LP pool was, say, PulseX, you're not going to get the most yield, but it's more stable. But you'll see the amount of Pulse versus PulseX you're holding might have fluctuated a lot from the early days until now. You still might be waiting a little bit to get back to your initial position, especially once you saw, I think Pulse hit 3x sacrifice before there was some dumping. I can't remember what PulseX was, but I think it held that ratio of 3-1. So, but yeah, so that's something I'm thinking about personally. Kind of feel for the guys that did do that, because they might have been a little bit wrecked. But, you know, that is the game with LP providing. Again, if in doubt, you could just do nothing and put it all to cold storage and just wait for the mad gains. But if, you know, if it's your only source of income and you have $1 and you're hoping to turn that into 1,000, you're gonna have a hard life, you know. I mean, I think most people understand that, but some people, you know, might not have given it that much thought, and maybe they think it's like a casino. They're just hoping that they get their $1,000 from their $1 very, very quickly, and then when it doesn't happen, they get sad, and well, you see people exit the market. Ultimately, you see people exit the market that will sell, and then it ends up in people's who has stronger hands, I would hope, and then it just sits there forever, or for a very long time. Yeah, that is about it. If you're looking to buy a Pulse, it's extremely cheap to do so. I was able to do it for $1 US. Like, sorry, 65 cents US. So I think that's kind of getting sorted. Even if you can do it with even less clicks, things like Change Now, things like you know, the other ones that you're mentioning the other day. But yeah, very, very cool. I think this is not so much a shaking out of weak hands. I think it's just people. I think it's just people that I don't know. I don't know what it is. Something happened. Someone got spooked somewhere. They sold down, and then what? We saw this, and then maybe there's some sort of story, talking points they're trying to pull together as to why it's happening, when ultimately it's just people selling in large numbers. I think I did see some stuff happen over on Hex Pulse Chain side. I think some large stakes came out. I was like wondering why that was. Then why maybe that was correlated. Maybe people were sort of, you know, understood large stakes are ending, and they just, because you can see everything on chain, and then it's like, let's just drive the price down. Like if you're a psychopath and you wanted more of everything, you're like, we'd probably drive the price down, and then people like what was that on the Ethereum side? There was that group of people, I can't remember, and they were, I read on Twitter somewhere something about there was a OTC discussion that got rejected, and then the price of ETH hex just died, which means they then had to bridge over into Pulsechain side to probably save some fees, and then once they're here, it's like the price is still dying, and then it died even more. So it's like, well, maybe they just are going to be punished so hard by the entire community because we don't really like that. We don't like, I'm not scammers. We don't like individuals who come in and try and throw their weight around and try and crush the little guys like myself, because they have more economic energy. I don't think that's what the Truth Engine is about. But then I also think the Truth Engine allows everyone to see that. So it's kind of cool that it's happening to them. So I have no issues with that. If they're sitting on big, large bags, they didn't want to get out of the system, they just want to dump perpetually on our heads, then I wouldn't care personally, because I'm a long-term mindset. I wouldn't mind personally if everything stays depressed and just ranges for a little bit while these other people exit the system, and then once they're gone, then maybe we go up. In the meantime, I personally think it's for myself, I don't know about everyone else, but I personally think it's a good time to buy as much as you fucking can. No, buy little amounts of Pulse and PulseX and Hex, maybe Ink, but like Ink you can get through actual farming, so maybe you'd buy PulseX and make farms, etc. Hence the whole concentration on the farming side of PulseX, the yield farming. I think that would be a wise move personally, especially at these depressed prices. I just saw this, I thought it was a gift. I honestly did. I bought up a little bit more, and then I bought up a little bit more because I then saw the other addresses moving on PulseX. I thought, well, maybe that could be a play. Maybe add that to my little challenge to myself that I got going on to buy Hex, Pulse, and now maybe PulseX, because maybe PulseX, I don't really want to say which one outperforms which, because most likely I'll be proven wrong. Well, you could say something and then someone could prove a point to make you wrong. However, we have seen Pulse sort of be the lead indicator. That's not to say that we could see some interesting move where Pulse stays stable at sack rate, maybe. I'm not sure if INC would still pump if Pulse is at normal sack rate, and then we see PulseX sort of hit sack rate. So then imagine Pulse at sack rate and PulseX back at sack rate, and everything would be almost reset. INC would then be the neutral position at whatever those two rates would be, and then Hex would be doing its thing as it continues to do. I think I had a minor end recently, and I was the first thing I thought of, I was like, well, if I haven't got any Pulse Hex LP positions, maybe that's worth considering due to the INC. Because in the INC, if you wanted to, you could buy more in the very short term of Hex to a way to obtain more economic energy, or to buy more shit. But then if you wanted to, put out a 5555, then you could get your com for free, which is I think 10%, unless that price has been murdered even more. But then also, at the end of 10 to 15 years, you're going to have double to triple your stack, which is, if it's a larger number, maybe something people might be considering, as I was mentioning in other stream, like your retirement plan, your future self, 10, 15 years down the track, what position do you want to be in? Do you still want to be holding that $1, just hoping it's going to be the $1,000? Or do you want to be, not trusting code, but, engaging with immutable contracts and written by code, which then allows you to program your own money for the future. So how many Hex do you want in the future? It is up to you. You decide right now what to buy, send it up to the future. You have a cheap chain to do it on with extremely cheap fees. You then also have the ability to purchase Pulse at basically sack rate. You have the ability to purchase PulseX under sack rate. So except for the bonuses, you're basically even with anyone else in this ecosphere. And you can then, if you wanted to, while you pass some time, yield some INC, maybe that's what people want to do. But yeah, What's happening, Pothead? I think I'll leave it there. I put some background images on Pothead because it's a bit hard to listen to someone droning on about just figures, numbers, what could happen in a different flavor, in a different way, a different accent to someone else who said the same shit a different time, like a billion times. But yeah, I thought, why not? Why not buy some more PulseX especially after seeing the address move? That was very exciting for myself. As you can tell through my voice, I'm ecstatic. I would not much rather be looking at the three ladies on screen. Instead, I'd much rather be doing crypto and looking at the screen. It's like anyway, yeah, that's about it. What do we got? I think my audio also is a little bit better. I tried to rejig it just slightly, but there's a couple things I couldn't get quite right. Let's have a look on some Twitter, sorry, on X, if there's anything. There's not too much. Like I said, other than the fact that we saw some addresses buying PulseX, it was very cool. Just makes me want to sort of pile in on top of that as well, as opposed to eventually though someone is gonna. I can imagine that someone's gonna dump on my head eventually if I buy all this fucking Pulse. On like copying the move of the other address who bought some Pulse. Someone's most likely going to be watching that, and as the Truth Engine reveals, well, on-chain data reveals, you probably see some people sell that back. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm actually starting to think maybe just from here we're going to start seeing. Maybe we do start seeing PulseX outperform briefly. If that was the case, I'm trying to think, what would I do? With the amount of PulseX I bought recently, I would most likely watch it pump hard as fuck, decide on what sort of threshold I'll be happy at selling, and then probably dispersing that energy. So if say it goes from 100 to 300, and then I'll take 100 and then put that into Pulse. I'll take 100 and put it into Hex. Or you could make some LPs from it. I don't know, and it does depend how everything else is performing, But if everything was suppressed and just PulseX increases, it would be cool if that took place. PulseX pumped, so it does like a 3x or something, gets a little bit above SAC. You probably from that point take some profits, put some into Pulse and have more Pulse. Maybe you create some farms to get more ink. Or maybe just the aim is to like build hoard some more Pulse just to have some like diamond head moves. In which case that would pump Pulse a little bit. And also I would also personally then bring some over to Hex. And make some more some Hex ladders, Especially with my little challenge. It's quite interesting to do my little challenge. I'm quite enjoying it. I don't know what everyone else is doing because again, different positions, different DCA. Different, different positions. So some people might have large bags and they're trying to figure out how to strategically use that and not get wrecked. And some people might be DCA in. Probably my approach. And making a little challenge for themselves, like a little quest to try and get as many, as many T shares. It's interesting. It's not actually so many T shares at the moment, but that eventually it will be the T shares. But it's funny because at the moment now is the best time to get T shares, as we all know. But then also trying to build up a stack of Pulse and a stack of PulseX, and then from there, then if the prices start pumping insanely, then I can start using that little stack, make some more farms, get some more ink. Then use the ink, recycle it back in. If you have to pay some taxes, maybe take some money out, maybe, depending on your other strategies. And then maybe buy more of the Pulse, more of the PulseX, more of the Hex, and then if the prices of everything pump, and then you have this infinite money glitch, whereby it's really hard to lose. That I think I hope that is what we're all working towards. As opposed to just watching it pump and then just murdering the price, which we've seen before. Unfortunately, you know. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Hey, you too. This is the LP analysis. But I thought you cannot listen to someone drone on about numbers, figures, and a whole bunch of maybe ifs and buts, without having some like decent background imagery. So I thought I would put it there. What's happening? Hey, this is, I think this is a record. I think this is the most people ever in chat. I'll go over to double check YouTube as well, because I'm watching it through Restream. I can't see who's mod and who's not. So if not, I'll probably check out small ranges. Funny thing, I was going over the same thing. Hex, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were up. I was talking about before. We were up at what 2x sack. PulseX was at sack, and Hex was about 2 or might have been 3 times what it is now. It's like, well, INC was 10. It's like, well, I can't not see that happening again in the future. It could happen in a different way though this time. If PulseX is maybe this time somehow PulseX outperforms. I don't know. Maybe Pulse gets at the sack. PulseX gets like 3 times sack, and Ink, I don't know. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's higher. But it's funny because it hasn't pulled back as hard, Ink, which is a good thing to see. Hex has pulled back about the same rate. I guess again we're talking about the ratios. But yeah, you can't really go wrong with Hex. Like at these prices, even if it maintains these prices, you know, you're looking to maintain your wealth. It's most likely a good play, I would say. But time frames like 10, 15 years, etc. Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, man. Like I was literally, I don't know. It sounds kind of stupid. I don't mind doing it. It's just like freedom, and then you get more money at the end of it. And depending on your it just depends on your situation. Like if you're almost homeless, maybe you can't just be chucking everything into crypto. But if you got some spare, like if you're in an okay position, and then you're able to DCA in, and once X Coast gets back online, I might check them out. My only issue with them is like the fee on, I think it was like the exchange rate. It kind of sucked a little bit. So it was cheaper for me to basically go through some other chains, bridge in. I was still going through ETH, and I'm like, hang on, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Like there was all these tools built in place, and some people were pointing some stuff, and I was like, okay, this shit works, I'll use it. Yeah. So now it's like I go out and I'm like all excited to do my gig economy. Like, I'm gonna buy so much Pulse, I'm gonna buy so much because I can't wait. It's gonna be glorious. And yeah, like it's kind of fun, you know. And honestly, I think if I did that and over the next 52 weeks something amazing happens with prices, or even if it stays the same, I'm gonna be in a much better position in terms of crypto, just simply by putting little amounts in. Like it's gonna be very cool. And then if we see how, you know, what's happening with him, but then if we see like, I think it was the altcoin daily guy, he had like what could do 1000x. It's like, well, just imagine if it does do 1000x over, I don't know what time frame we're talking about, maybe just through this bull run next year and a bit, 2 years even, who knows. And small amounts, you know, are from doing like DoorDash or Uber Eats. Like somehow that turns into this huge sum, and then you're able to lock it in. Maybe you chuck it into Hex like a big giant amount, pay your future self with some larger stakes, take the com out, and also before then scrape some other amounts off or put some aside, as I said, and then maybe make some LP farms, take the ink, and then you have another sort of little business generating income. And then also if you have a stack on the side, like in cold storage or something, and the price is just absolutely moon, you can take little slices off there and decide what you want to do. Maybe you put in Hex. I can't help but think if everything moves real hard, Hex might just still be the king. But it's kind of hard to say that now because people are like, oh yeah, sure, that's happening. I'm like, well, I'm not exactly dumping on my Hex to jump into like Shib or anything. So I would say I would like to think there's a large portion of individuals in a similar way, but we'll see how it plays out, I guess. Yeah, had a little bit of a crazy rant the other day, just like raging at like I don't know. I don't even know who I was raging at, to be honest. I was raging at myself. I was thinking, why is Hex down so much? You know, it's just such a shame. I thought everyone was so staunchly, Hexkin was like, but the price, man, it's so down. But I had to take some deep breath, get some oxygen circulating, and just go, well, it is what it is. We can't change, and things aren't that bad, you know. I guess it was bound to happen. People take profits and do what they do. We've seen people build stuff, which is good as long as it works. Pulse Chain is finally out, and now we get to play the game where we either DCA in, we do nothing, or we bite our fingernails the whole time while we wait and watch PulseX, INC, and Hex just pump beyond our wildest dreams. But what time frame that is, like I said, I'm still waiting for $1 to get my particular Hex tattoo. But now apparently it has to be, I'm thinking maybe just Hex on Pulse Chain, because most likely I would say that's going to hit $1 before any other Hex in existence. Well, yeah. So I guess that's one last thing. I'm not so sure. The community could revive the price of eHex over a long period of time if they still kind of semi-support it over there. However, I don't think, unless you're a really large player with huge bags, you're most likely not going to be doing that, because it's cheaper, better, faster, cleaner, crisper, performs better moves, I don't know, over on Pulse Chain. So yeah, it's a shame though, because I don't like to think eHex is completely dead, because it's really tempting to go over now and buy some eHex on Pulse Chain at those extremely low prices, because then you could just stack it, although you wouldn't be staking it or mining it. But yeah, that's very low on my list of things to do. I'd have to get in a better position in regards to stacking more PulseX, getting some farms happening, earning some more ink, and creating some more ladders through the DCA. And that, I think, is my goal, as well as my Uber challenge, because as long as that keeps ticking over okay, then in the fiat world, I guess you'd call it, yeah, maybe get a new car of some sort, a big giant screen, and so maybe I'll get a stream while I'm driving around. Who knows? Get multiple cameras and shit. Maybe, just maybe. I don't think getting a Lambo to do gig economy stuff is very wise thing, because I'm not sure you're getting a huge tax benefit on that, and you just wreck the car. Yeah, I don't think that's what happen. I think having it wrapped, getting a real nice car, maybe not your daily driver, but maybe like a real nice car, and then have some stickers on it with Hex. Maybe that's a kind of a cool thing, some free advertising. But then it's like kind of doxing yourself, a little bit. You see, you have like some Lambo, and then you have like crypto shit all over, and then people could target you. So I guess that's the importance of anonymity on the internet, or just having really good operational security, like physical operational security. I don't know. But yeah, it's good to see you guys in here. Thank you for tuning in. If there's anything else, I don't know. I won't go there. I think the background's good, gives us something to, if anyone's watching this to get bored, they're just like, oh yeah, background good. Although it's kind of, polarizing, but I think it's kind of healthy, to be honest. Now, in closing, for the 30th time, yeah, with the Sack Addy moving, I have no idea. Sack Addy? I'm not even sure it's Sack Addy. with an address purchase with large funds behind it, as we can see on chain, purchasing something like PulseX, I just can't help but wonder maybe we're going to see something different take place. It's unpredictable in this environment, which is Pulse chain, in which PulseX exists, which has a burn rate, which I think burns even quicker at the lower rates. And it would be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. If we saw a reversal, if we saw, imagine like 3-1, but PulseX is 3 times above sack rate and Pulse is at sack rate. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but if that does happen, I wouldn't mind, you know. It would make me maybe want to buy some more PulseX, but it's just hard to say. I mean, at the moment, it is the only thing under sack rate. So technically, you could say, well, or you could say technically Hex is down a lot from its all-time high, so maybe that's the best buy if we all think it's going to hit all-time high again. INC is sort of unknown. We haven't seen it play out yet. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. Is it L1 or is it just it just is what it is? It's set and locked in. And then yeah, then PulseX. It's like, what is that going to do now? We're seeing some movement. I don't think I've ever seen it outperform Pulse, and so if that does take place, maybe that gives some life to the PulseX holders, and maybe just maybe that allows for them to utilize their funds in a certain way. Who knows? I don't know. But I think the INC, I understand the LP is important, but I think the INC is going to help people, I think, personally. Shit, you could just take your INC, dump it all into Hex, and you'd be probably okay. You could systematically take your INC as profit, as income. I did a calculation, and I think it was something like 50,000 US dollars. If you had 50,000 and you made an LP farm, I think it was with a stable and Pulse, you'd be looking at like $1,000 a week of INC. You'd be like farming at current rates. And I thought that was just, why didn't I do that? that would be really good. Imagine that on top of something like Uber or DoorDash or like a normal 9 to 5. Imagine that sort of income. You can then decide after you've done your taxes and everything how to deploy, you know, or maybe you just sit on it and never take it, because if you don't take it every day, every week, you don't have to pay tax on it straight away. You could like defer it like years and years out if it's profitable to do so. But yeah, very interesting stuff. Keep balanced. Oh yeah. That dude, I honestly thought INC was a like down forever token. I thought it hit $80. That's the euphoria stage of INC farms, and it's just from there it's just going to be dumped forever. But then because people have so much PulseX, and I didn't see the bridged in stable farms coming and the higher amount of yield, so I wasn't prepared for that. I actually thought there would be more people creating value over on the Ethereum side, but now thinking about it, it would suck because of all the fees. It's like, why bother? It's easy just to bridge it over into Pulse chain. Yeah. But in saying that though, if I don't know, man, it's weird. Like I don't know, it's fascinating to watch how the INC is able to maintain what it's doing now. Maybe some people, large players, are going to come along and eventually, like I said, decide to take some profits off the table, and you'll just see this infinite dump, like infinite selling pressure. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just saying if you know, if you had like a large bag and it's like you didn't know what to do with it, which would be like you just watch it go up and up and up, and you hold it for like a year, a big giant bag, a big fat juicy bag, and then you like dump it all. It's most likely gonna murder the price, but it'll delay out your next what is it called, financial year or whatever, something like that. I think most likely, personally, if it was me and I saw big fat numbers, I would be more inclined to just take it constantly and then make other pools and then build those other pools up so it's earning more than the initial fat bag was earning. And then at that point, you've got this like infinite fucking money printer on tap, which is INC, and it's like, what do you want to do with it? You could personally, I would be thinking if I had like infinite INC or like a lot of INC, yeah, they're pretty like thick, man, thick and juicy. So I guess there's healthy selling into Pulse. It's funny that because then you'd sell it into Pulse, pump up your Pulse stack, and then I don't know, make another farm and then get more ink, but then dilute the whole pool. It's very interesting. I don't know if it could actually just keep going up forever. Because if it keeps going up forever, we're on some pretty big bags. Ooh, true. I have eyes on me by the missus. She's not happy with the background. Alright, I'm not talking to them. I'm gonna move the camera. Ready? She ran away. Where was I? You can roll some pretty big bags. Ooh, I guess if people are trying to figure out how to get out, maybe. I don't know. I never thought of that because I was like not with my. I guess we do it. We do a thought experiment. If you had big giant fucking bags, you like just want to you want to get it into fiat for some reason because like everyone has dreams and aspirations of like Bugattis and shit. And then how would you get it out without huge slippage? You'd need big giant deep liquidity pools, big giant ones. So you'd have dye, you'd move it across the bridge. But even then you'd want bigger ones. So you'd want Pulse to be as high. You want Pulse to be worth as much as possible. But even then, say Pulse starts dropping zeros, PulseX starts dropping zeros. Not sure what INC does. Maybe that starts growing as well. Because to maintain a sort of a healthy yield, maybe Hex starts dropping zeros too. And the next thing, the liquidity pools are very, very deep. But also then you've got people like the whales in the system with fucking amounts of money that it would almost be impossible to take out. Like all at one time without suffering huge slippage. Which is why I think, I could be wrong in saying this, but this is why I think the system's designed to be a sustained, long-term, slow burn fucking growth mechanism that just self-feeding, you know, not in a way that just eats a snake eating itself away, but as Pulse increases, the bags of everyone, like the value increases, but then the really large players, their bags increase a lot, like a lot more than like someone with like $1. And it's like maybe they do eventually decide to try and sell. It's like, well, maybe through Hex, they make big giant stakes, take that com, but then com gets murdered, you know, things like that. Maybe they do the same with I guess Hedron Acosta, but then what if that just gets murdered out because people just dump it, you know? What are you left with? You need big LP pools, and then with big LP pools, you can then earn more ink, and then take out in a sustainable way, you know, from the big giant healthy pools without murdering everything. Unless, of course, people just want to exit and just get destroyed by the slippage. Like if they have like what 10x the amount of something in a liquidity pool, they're just going to get destroyed so hard. The farmers will do alright though, but yeah, I guess that's why I think maybe understanding LP is important to the very large people, not myself. And I guess I just don't understand the meme coin stuff. Like when I scroll down, I'm like, oh. although if you have really huge bags, maybe people are going to try and sort of do the parody where we just make huge, big, fat, deep pools with the fork stuff, I mean, hey, I wouldn't be upset if forked everything hits parity. That would be insane. But that means there'll be twice as much ETH technically twice as much ETH and DAI and USD in the entire system. Um, it was really weird watching everything dump. Like everything was dying, and then I saw for some reason all the fork shit started to pump. So I don't know if that's could prevent. If thousand people put in 1,000 of liquidity, million liquidity, people hugely. If 1,000 people put in 1,000 of liquidity, 100,000 people put in 100,000 people put in liquidity, huge liquidity. Ah, okay. Ooh. Hmm. Could prevent. Could prevent huge. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? I still don't fully understand it. My small brain is struggling, you know. Um, decentralized LP is cool. I agree, 100%. And it's like, why would everyone pull the LP at the same time? Like, that's what I get with the whole fucking the EX. Like, why did everyone pull the E? Like, okay, it's like it was already known that cheaper, faster fees on Ethereum, and people decided they still want to play on EHEX over Ethereum side, which is fine. And then it's like people panicked and sold all their fucking like destroyed it over there. I'm like, okay, it's kind of hard to undo that because I think people got wrecked doing it. I'm not sure why they would. Interesting. By that, by that, I guess going back to your point that possibly, which I could have missed, but if I guess you're right. If imagine if everyone in the entire system entered into a pool, um, maybe the stables, I don't know, but even the PulseX pool, like it's arguably safe, quote unquote safe, because you know, if Pulse pumps really hard, PulseX pumps really hard, it's like, do you really care if the values are still pretty good if you pulled it all at once? It's like, why would you pull it all at once anyway if you're trying to get more INC? And if INC maintains or increases or decreases, but still you're producing a lot of it, because then you have that really big, thick, fucking juicy liquidity for bigger players to come in and decide that they want to engage and entertain, you know. Because I haven't looked at I don't know what the liquidity is like over. I'll check it out on some of the other chains and their shit, because I guess the opportunity there is like, well, if you have lots of people providing LP over on their stuff, come over here. We have cheaper, faster shit, you know. Maybe even a 10% fraction of that comes over to PulseX, not from within inside the community of, I guess, learning on how to create LP and provide make thicker, deeper pools for everyone. Externally, if you can attract other players, maybe just maybe that would be a very net positive for the system. Now, all right, I think that's about it. I'll close this one out because my background's died. So thank you everyone, and yeah, thank you. That's a very good point, Coin Critic. If 1,000 people put in 1,000 of liquidity, a million in liquidity, 100,000 people in liquidity could prevent huge slippage. Decentralized LP is cool. It is very cool. All right, peace out. Thank you.